Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here. Today we're resuming the Metallica discography, and a week before their new album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, comes out, today we're going to be looking into their previous album, Death Magnetic. Now, let's just go into this album. Now, after that atrocity known as Saint Anger that we just discussed in the previous review, Metallica spent about a year or so touring it for that album, and then they took about a couple years or so in the studio writing material for what would become Death Magnetic. And this album was, of course, released in September of 2008. And when I first heard the one song, I think it was Day That Never Comes or Cyanide, I was like, holy shit, Metallica went back to their roots. I was hoping that the rest of the album would sound that way. And when I heard this album when it first came out, I was like, yeah, it sounded like old school Metallica. Basically, Metallica went back to their roots. Kind of like, I honestly think this is their best album they've done since probably Injustice for All or even the Black Album. Like a mixture of those two. It basically kind of sounds like Metallica, like old school Metallica. Um, yeah, and production wise, I mean, this is actually the first album that they did with a new producer, Rick Rubin, after like their long collabs with Bob Rock from the Black Album to Saint Anger. And this is basically just Metallica back to normal, like better snare, I should say, and guitar solos. I mean, Kirk Hammett has some really great guitar work on this album. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive in this album track by track. Now the album opens up with "That Was Just Your Life," which kind of starts off kind of weird. Starts off with a little bit of a heartbeat, and then it starts off very slow with some guitars, and then the drums then kick in, and it just goes into a fast riff. It just goes right into it, and I think it's a pretty interesting way to start off this album. And it's a great album opener, if you ask me. And then we go to the end of the line. It has some groovy guitar parts in there, some solid drumming, and some excellent instrumentation from all the members. And it almost has a little bit of a progressive vibe to it. And some good vocals from James Hetfield. I think his vocal performance on this album is just really well done. Um, Broken, Beat, and Scarred has a blend of like groove and sludge metal with a hint of proggy elements in there. Here it just has a very epic, heavy tone. And then we go into The Day That Never Comes, which I believe was the first single released off of Death Magnetic. Has some very melodic and heavy blend to it. Fantastic playing and a little bit of a technical playing and some strong rhythm section from Lars and Rob. And I think it's a really good, kind of a balladish type song. Then we go to All Nightmare Long, which kind of starts off very eerie, and then it explodes into like some heavy thrash section, and just a really good solo in there. And it's really strong song on this album. One of my favorite songs off of Death Magnetic. And then we go into Cyanide, which has some fantastic arrangements in there. It's just kind of like slight progressive in there and a fast guitar solo in there. Pretty much one of my favorite songs off this album. And then we go into The Unforgiven 3, which is the third and last sequel from the first seven Unforgiven off the Black Album and the second Unforgiven off Reload. And this is kind of different from the other two Unforgivens. It kind of starts off with some piano, which I think is the first time I ever hear piano on a Metallica album. And this song kind of changes throughout, and it's just very crunchy. It's really great musicality and some fantastic parts in there, and I love this song a lot. The Judas Kiss, heavy and aggressive and great musicianship from all the members. Then we go into Suicide Redemption, which is the longest song on the album. It's about 9 or 10 minutes long. I can't remember. It's a great instrumental, really great bass line from Rob. And also forgot this is the first Metallica album to feature Robert Trujillo on bass. I mean, he said he wasn't even on Saint Anger. He was credited, but he didn't play bass on that. It was Bob Rock. But anyway, the song basically showcases a good bass line from Rob, and the song is like 10 minutes long, and I like all the riffs are just chugging and heavy. And then when the album closes with My Apocalypse, which is a really good way to end this album. It goes off with a bang and just an insane solo, and the lyrics on there are pretty dark. Now overall, Death Magnetic by Metallica is a return to form, basically redeemed themselves after that shit known as Saint Anger. And of course, right after this album came out, they Metallica had written had four other songs that were written for this album but didn't make it on the album, and they actually have an EP called Beyond Magnetic, which I have right there, but I'm not going to review that. But I do like that. So yeah, if I were to give this album a score, I'd probably give this like an 8.5 out of 10. It's a strong album, a strong way for Metallica to be like, we messed up on the previous album. Let's try to get back to our old selves. And I believe this is the great album. So yeah, that's my review of Death Magnetic, guys. Let me know what you guys think about it. I'll see you all in the next review, and keep it metal.